up, everybody? Welcome to an at-home edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latzia. We are stuffing a lot inside the next 55 minutes. So Steve Buchanan will virtually punch Gary and Thorne in the face while they talk baseball. Plus, we got a DFS preview of tonight's NHL slate and this week's unique two-man PGA Tour event, two-man teams. There's not just two dudes playing. Speaking of unique, though, guys, look at this. Steph Curry and Jordan Poole absolutely torching the Nuggets last night and leading the Warriors to a 2-0 series lead in their first round meeting. Poole, second career playoff game, goes for nearly 55 DK fantasy points. Steph putting up nearly 50 for DraftKings lineup. It was his second straight game coming off the bench, and he looked like a man possessed, like once again. DraftKings contributor Nick Fryer, RotoWire's Nick Whalen. We get some big Nick energy on the show this morning. They're here to break down tonight's game two matchups. We got three games here. But before we do that, dudes, what impressed you the most here, Fryer, between Philly's win over Toronto and then like what the Warriors did? Because you look at Poole, he's been playing like an all-star since the all-star break, dude.
Yeah, well, with the Warriors, I kind of expected them to still cover. I did have that yesterday, but with the Raptors, I'm blown away that they're not able to answer the call. I understand they're kind of dealing with injuries and illnesses and everything, so there's a lot going on there. But at the same time, I thought they were going to at least cover in that one, and once again, they get smacked around. But to me, Emerson, the biggest surprise of the day was the Mavericks pulling that one off. I mean, I understand if Luka's there, it's a different series, but you would think the Jazz, without Luka Doncic in this series, I would think any of the top teams in this conference would go and sweep the Mavericks. But this is why, like, the Jazz year in and year out, it's like they're a nice team, but come to the postseason, it's like, what do they really do?
Yeah, Whalen, what do you think between the two teams that are down 2-0 in their opening series? Which one do you think has a chance of like coming back and actually making this a competitive series?
Man,
or are they both done?
I think they're both done. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers over at the DK Sportsbook right now, and, you know, Philly is now minus 2,000 to win that series, and Golden State minus 1,600 to beat Denver. And honestly, I think I would reverse those numbers. I think I could see Toronto maybe mounting somewhat of a comeback in this series. Like if Scotty Barnes makes a miraculous return for game three, if Gary Trent doesn't have to leave, you know, with a what seemed to be a pretty serious illness. I was surprised he even played in that game last night. You know, you're removing Matisse Thybulle for these next couple games at Toronto. I mean, Philly should win. They probably will win. But I thought Toronto would be able to put up a lot more of a fight. And they were literally and figuratively punched in the mouth in game one of the series. And they just haven't been able to bounce back. And like, you know, Nick said about last night's game, I thought Toronto was at least going to cover. You know, they get out to, I think it was an 11-2 start. And, you know, I looked away for like the next 3 minutes and all of a sudden Philly's up like 14-12. So they got off to the start they needed to. They kind of blitzed Philly early on. Fred VanVleet hit some early shots and then they just couldn't follow it up. So I think both these series are done. I mean, especially Denver. If you watch the second half of that game, I mean, DeMarcus Cousins is fighting Will Barton on the bench. Jokic is getting kicked out. Mike Malone just had this like stunned look on his face every time the Warriors would hit a shot. Both those series to me look like they're done.
And Whalen, it's crazy too, because like when you compare those teams on paper, we knew the Sixers were going to have that clear advantage really with guys like 1 through 3, but Toronto was supposed to have like an advantage with its role players, two-way players to match up against the Sixers, like one-dimensional bench too. Like this is kind of surprising through two games.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I think losing Scotty Barnes is a big, big deal for Toronto, because I think everybody loves like the top 6 or 7 for the Raptors, but beyond that, and when you take Gary Trent out of the equation as well as Scotty Barnes and even Thaddeus Young, who was banged up in this game, these are all key pieces for a team that's really, really top heavy and has a lot of kind of switchy, interchangeable, long rangy wings. But you get beyond that and like they have no other guards. You know, like when Gary Trent went out of this game, it's all right, Malachi Flynn, who we've, you know, gone way out of our way to play all season. Armani Brooks, you know, Steve Mikhailuk, you know, they have no depth in the backcourt whatsoever. So I think as soon as those two guys, two key starters for the Raptors, you know, were banged up, their chances, you know, to pull this upset, I think diminish pretty greatly. They need to be at full strength. And they're a team that even in the regular season, you know, is not afraid to play 5 starters, 39 plus minutes every single night. So if you remove 2 of those guys, they get in trouble pretty quickly. And as we saw last night, they have no answer for Embiid. I mean, he was just parading his way to the free throw line, especially in that first half.
Yeah. All right. Fryer, let's go to tonight. 3-game slate. We got a bunch more game 2 matchups here. Who are you paying up for in DFS?
Yeah, so last night I was saying go with Donovan Mitchell in that 8K range, and that I'd rather spend money there. And then it proved to work out pretty well because Steph Curry was really the only guy when you look at those guys above 8K that returned value. I know Nikola Jokic had higher output than both of them, but he was like at 11K in terms of price. And tonight I do want to stick in that 8K range as well. I think there are a few guys that you can pair up together. CP3, CJ McCollum, Anthony Edwards, any two of those three guys, you can put them together. You could even rock with all three of them tonight if you kind of push the right buttons in terms of value. I know it's tough in the postseason to get those good value plays. But with CP3, he's not points dependent. I know he had that 30 spot in game one, but that's why we've seen with him consistently. He's been putting out great numbers throughout the course of the season. And with McCollum and Edwards, they're both in situations where they have to score a lot. Obviously with the Timberwolves, they won that first game, but they want to keep their pedal on their foot on the pedal. And with Edwards, like, this is one of these with a guy who's going to lead that team most nights. I know that's Cat's going to do a lot of it too. But I think you have two guys that are in position to score a lot, and you can pair them up. And no matter what, when you do this, it's going to allow you to get a piece of one to maybe two of those higher end mid range guys. And then you have a formidable lineup going into the night.
All right, Waylon, what about you, man? You're going to drop some change on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Cat is the highest priced player at 9,500. He looked good in game one. I think a lot of people were scared off by just how awful he looked in that play-in game. But a nice bounce back for Karl-Anthony Towns, I think, to get some confidence back in game one. So I don't mind necessarily paying up for him. I do think we probably see more Jaren Jackson, though, matched up with Karl-Anthony Towns in this game. Obviously, Jackson is a foul liability on any given night, but I was surprised, how conservative they were and how deep they ran that rotation in game one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Taylor Jenkins tighten things up a little bit in what's close to a must-win game too, it feels like, for the Memphis Grizzlies. But of the two, I mean, I like Edwards, like Nick said, at 8,200. I think there's a ton to like there. I think he's going to be really popular tonight. And I'm comfortable paying up for one or both of Devin Booker at 8,800 or Chris Paul at 8,300. I think I would lean slightly toward Paul. I think Booker is probably a little bit higher floor at this point, just because it feels like he's going to get his 28, 5 and 5. But as we saw with Chris Paul, he could explode for 17 points in a quarter and also tack on 10 assists any given night. So 8,300, I think, for a guy with that kind of upside is a pretty good deal tonight.
All right, well, Fryer, you kind of mentioned this game a little earlier. We had Mavs guard Jaylen Brunson as the highest scoring player on the slate. He dropped 41 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. I believe he was the first player in franchise history to score that many points without committing a turnover in a playoff game. That's ridiculously impressive. So that was good for nearly 66 DK fantasy points, Fryer. Cost you only $7,200 in salary. So where can we find that kind of value tonight?
Yeah, and I know that's a guy who people were looking to roster on that one. And I mean, hey, it worked out really well. If you're looking in that 7K range, I would say Ayton would be my guy to go with. I know D'Lo, there's a little bit of upside there as well after a slow first game. But Ayton would be the guy I'd want to go with. But we're talking strictly value plays in that lower range. Obviously, I said it earlier, it's a little bit tougher to get those guys in that lower price. I know Boogie Cousins provided a little bit of value last night, but I'm not able to find a guy in that 3K range that I really, really love tonight. I think Danilo Gallinari and Malik Beasley are two guys in that higher 4K range. That'll be good options. With Gallinari, he saw less minutes in the first game, but he saw, the higher end of his shooting in terms of shots that he's had over the last few weeks or so coming into the postseason. I know he averaged 9 field goal attempts per game this season. He was at 12 last game. So that's all he's coming in to do. He's coming in to score. And for the Heat, as much as he's probably part of the equation for them to stop, he's not their top priority. And then Malik Beasley, I like him too. And I know he got more minutes last game, shot a little bit more than Gallinari and shot better. I'd like at that $200 difference. I could go either way on one of them being my favorite. If you need a super saver, again, tough to get into that 3K range, but Jaden McDaniels at 4K got a lot of minutes in that first game, kind of around relative to a bench guy or a role player, excuse me. I think if you're getting that from a guy that cheap right now in the postseason, it makes him a good option, at least to bolster the bottom of your roster.
Well, give me a value play. He's going to score nearly 66 DK fantasy points tonight, please.
Yeah, no problem. Great stat, by the way, on Jaylen Brunson. I'm surprised that, OJ Mayo or Monte Ellis hadn't done that during their days with the Mavs. But no, I mean, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. Obviously, you're joking. But I cannot believe how the Utah Jazz defended Jaylen Brunson last night, or just opted not to defend him, especially in that second half. Jaylen Brunson should not be blowing by guys the way that he was. So props to him, but also I don't know what the heck was going on with that Jazz defense. I have a few value plays I could throw out there. I like the Ayton call. I mean, again, not a true value, of course, but I think we're going to see a renewed emphasis on the glass for the Phoenix Suns because, the Pelicans shot under 40% in that game one, but they were still in it. It was down to 6 or 7 points in the fourth quarter, mostly because they were crashing the glass. I mean, Valanciunas had 25 rebounds in that game, had 13 offensive boards. So I think we see an emphasis on DeAndre Ayton getting a body, making sure they're preventing Valanciunas from having another game like that. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to Desmond Bane. He's at 6,400, pretty good price relative to the upside that he showed throughout the regular season. I always like Onyeka Okongwu at 5,000. Maybe not the highest ceiling. You're not going to get 66 DK points out of him, but should play a larger role with no Capella. And then Brandon Clark. I'm not convinced that he plays as many minutes as he did in game one, but he had 36 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. And he's priced at just $4,400 tonight.
All right, guys, let's talk about the Heat here. They're looking to go up 2-0 on Atlanta. They did a good job shutting down Trae Young in game one. Can they do it again, Waylon, and cover the 7-point spread?
I think they can. I don't think they're going to shut down Trae Young, to the degree that we saw. I mean, that was as much shut down really by any team all season. But I think the game probably plays out pretty similarly to what we saw on Sunday. I mean, Atlanta is really overmatched. I think there's this kind of remaining belief that, they were in the East Finals last year. They've kind of been telling us all year they can flip the switch, and they're bored by the regular season. I mean, like the least accomplished team to ever take on a mantra like that, but they're overmatched. They were in the play-in game for a reason. They had to win their way in to this playoff tournament for a reason. I think Miami is really, really deep, and that's really what we saw in game one. It's not like Jimmy Butler went off. It's not like Bam Adebayo overpowered them. It was the collective Miami Heat rotation. Like everybody seemed to play well. They have so many guys. Bogdanovic is now banged up coming into this game. We don't know what we're going to get from John Collins. Even if Trae Young goes for 40, I think Atlanta has a hard time covering that 7 points.
You agree with that, Fryer?
Yeah, and I think Nick put it best too. The least accomplished team to take on that mantra of we're bored by the regular season is a perfect way to put it. Look, we knew this coming in, though. We knew that any team that wasn't the Nets coming out of the play-in tournament was going to get the tar kicked out of them by whoever it is they got matched up against. And I know with the Heat, we look at them, and I don't look at them as like the most elite of the top 4 teams, even though they have they're the top seed in the Eastern Conference right now. But when you look at any of those teams from 8 below with the Eastern Conference, none of them were really formidable teams outside of the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah, I look at this game and I think no matter what, yes, maybe Trae Young goes off and has a strong game, but I just don't think that's going to matter because with the Heat bringing on the defensive end and the depth that they have right now in this kind of a matchup, that's all going to play really well.
Yeah, the Heat consistently complaining too about the attention they're not receiving, but they're saying they love not receiving the attention. I'm like, okay, whatever, dudes. All right, let's pick up the pace here for the last two. Minnesota's stealing game one in Memphis. Anthony Edwards leading the way in a high-scoring affair. Memphis favored by 6.5 points in game two. You like the T-Wolves to at least cover, whether or not they pull off another upset, Fryer?
Yeah, so I think Memphis is going to win this one, but I do think Minnesota is going to cover just when you look at how high-paced these two offenses are. This is the kind of tempo that Minnesota likes most, and obviously what they bring on the defensive end. But still, I do like Memphis to win, and if you're not as comfortable, if you still want to go with the Grizzlies, but you don't feel comfortable about touching the spread or anything, same game parlay with Memphis to win and Bane to make 3+ 3-pointers, I think is a comfortable one. Right? It's at -110 right now.
Waylon, what do you want to do here?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Kind of a disrespectful line, honestly. It feels like for the Timberwolves, who essentially led that game wire to wire, were the better team in game one, and I think for this line to be set at 6.5, that's a little high. So I am with Fryer. I think we have to give Memphis the benefit of the doubt. They were the much more consistent team, the much better team during the regular season. They are at home, so I think they even the series. But I think we get a close game tonight.
All right, guys, last one here, Phoenix and New Orleans. The nightcap Suns were too much to handle in game one. We expected that, winning by 11 tonight, favored by 9.5. You expect them to cover and go 2-0 in this series, Waylon?
Yes, big time. I think they let their guard down a little bit during that second half. New Orleans went on a bit of a run. That game was closer, or I think the score was closer than the game actually was. Phoenix is the vastly better team. I think they play a more complete 4 quarters, and we see a pretty big-time blowout. I think this could look a lot like last night's Warriors Nuggets game, minus some of the Harlem Globetrotters showmanship that we saw from Golden State.
All right, Fryer, what side you on here?
Yeah, I agree with Nick on this. Another one we're in lockstep in. I mean, I just feel too comfortable about the way the Suns are right now. When you look at the system and they're at full strength in terms of, the personnel and everything, this is in the Pelicans, as much as they work their tails off to get to the postseason and everything. I just look at them and feel kind of similarly as I do about the Hawks. Like they just don't belong here. And the Suns are just, one of the best teams in the NBA right now.
Indeed, they are. I can't confirm. Love you guys. Mean it. That was a good time. We got to put up your bukes. That's coming up next. But first, this week, our analysts are breaking down NFL teams' needs before the upcoming draft in Vegas. So each day, they're going to focus on two divisions and deliver a team-by-team breakdown of what positions they're going to be looking for come next Thursday in Vegas. We continue our series today with Pierce Dietrich taking a look at the NFC South division.
Hi, Pierce Dietrich here with DraftKings, bringing you the draft needs for each team in the NFC South. Carolina Panthers 5-12. They have the number 6 pick overall. They do not have a second or third round pick. With that top pick, they could go after quarterback Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, but this is not a highly regarded draft class, and you always run the risk of selecting a bust like their current highly drafted quarterback in Sam Darnold. They could also choose to go with offensive tackle Charles Cross out of Mississippi State to fix their offensive line needs. Look for the Panthers in the later rounds to address their needs at linebacker and defensive line. The Atlanta Falcons, 7-10 in 2021. They had the 8th pick overall, 2 second-round picks, and 2 third-round picks. They have a major need of wide receiver after Russell Gage left through free agency, and Calvin Ridley has been suspended for the 2022 season. They could also use an edge rusher that they could possibly get in the second round because this is a very deep class. And then, of course, quarterback is in need with Matt Ryan being traded. They could use that first-round pick for a quarterback or hope that someone falls to them in the second round. New Orleans Saints, 9-8 in 2021. The Saints lost offensive tackle Taron Armstead to free agency, so offensive line is need number 1. Saints fans would likely prefer Kenny Pickett if he falls to them with the 16th pick, or wide receiver out of Ohio State, Chris Olave. Now, neither can be successful if the Saints don't address their offensive line issues. Quarterback, wide receiver are needs, but line is number 1. Look for the Saints in the later rounds to address their needs on the defensive line. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 13-4. The Bucs have needs on the offensive line, and that's where their first and second round picks should go. They lost Ali Marpet to retirement, and Alex Kappa went to the Bengals through free agency. They also have defensive line issues. Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh are free agents. And then last but not least, at cornerback, the Buccaneers could add some depth, but also plan for the future with Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamal Dean, both on contract years.
All right, some great storylines around Major League Baseball going down last night. It was really emotional, though, dudes, in LA. Freddie Freeman, that reunion with the Braves, going deep in his first at-bat against his former team. But before that game, too, oh, my God, cuteness overload. His son, Charlie, bear hugging his dad's former teammate in Dansby Swanson. Whew. So now that you're all feeling warm and tingly inside, I hear you giggling, Steve Buchanan. Allow me to introduce DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Gary and Thorne, here for a healthy dose of reality, a dose of the good stuff, a dose of put up your bukes. This is when Steve gives out his favorite plays on tonight's MLB slate, and Gary either agrees or pivots like a coward. Looking back on last week, take a gander, everybody, at how Steve took a commanding 1-0 series lead. This is a best of 7 series, though, so you're still alive, Garion. Steve, you're sending a strong, strong message to your inferior opponent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I mean, I like Garion. He's one of the only people at this company I do like, so I feel bad that I beat him. But, it's a long series. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's true. What was your biggest regret from this showdown last Tuesday, Garion, and your picks?
Yeah, I might have to start reassessing my whole I don't agree with Steve philosophy. That kind of backfired last week. I will say, if I'm only going to win one category, I'm glad it was bet.
Yeah.
That's a good one to be your solo win, making people some money. But yeah, back to the drawing board this week. We'll try again.
Okay, dude. So let's go ahead and start there. Steve, hook me up with your pitcher, man. Who's your favorite one tonight?
Look, moving forward, if you're not targeting against the Reds, then you're just not doing this right. This team stinks, okay? Over the last 5 games, we've only played like 10, but over the last 5 games, they're averaging 1.6 runs per game.
Oh my
This
God.
is after their Reds president came out and goes, oh, where are you all going to go? They're not going to come to the home stadium. I'll tell you that. Joe Musgrove is going to have his way with this team tonight, just like every major league pitcher that's faced him thus far has done so. He's made 2 starts already, racking up the strikeouts against the Diamondbacks and the Braves, which is a pretty impressive start. This whole Padres rotation, quite frankly, has been really strong thus far. But against this Reds team, who coming into tonight has the second highest K rate in the league, and is slashing 181, 254, and 287 to begin the season. This is a team you are targeting against. Give me Joe Musgrove.
Dude, the Reds went 8 days without holding a lead in the game before Pham homered to the top of the first inning, like on Monday. And that lead lasted 8 minutes. Gary, what do you want to do here, dude?
Yeah, I mean, like Steve, you kind of immediately on a slate this size go, okay, who are the Reds playing?
Yeah.
Diamondbacks playing. Didn't really like the Diamondbacks thing too much. I agree. Musgrove's in a fantastic spot here. I'm going to go with Corbin Burns, though. Congratulations to the Chicago Cubs for getting to draw Corbin Burns on like weird short work opening day, weird spring training thing, because Corbin Burns is now just Corbin Burns again, and he's going to be running through the entirety of the National League. He looked dominant in his last start. It was the Orioles, but tonight's the Pirates. So I really don't have too many reservations about that. 19% swinging strike rate in that game, 7 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts. He built up to 97 pitches. So there's really no concerns about that anymore. You're paying premium money for Corbin Burns tonight. This is a slate loaded with aces, but I think he is clearly the cream of the crop. So I'm going to pay 10-5 and go up with Corbin Burns.
All right, Bukes, for your favorite infielder on this main slate, you're looking right in your own backyard.
Yeah, Xander Bogaerts at home against the lefty, going up against Yusei Kikuchi. When you leave the Mariners, your career just ends. That's basically how it happens, okay? So he's with the Blue Jays. That's Garion's team. So I'm trying to, get at Garion on this one here. But you look at the numbers for Xander Bogaerts, specifically against lefties at home. He absolutely crushes in this type of matchup. From last season, 399 WOBA, 225 isolated power, and a 151 WRC plus. I think it's fair to say that this Red Sox offense hasn't exactly got off to the stellar start that maybe some people imagined, but this is a good spot for this Red Sox team as a whole. They put up good numbers against lefties overall at home, but the guy who was doing that mostly from the heart of the lineup is Bogaerts. I think this is a great spot for him, and that's the place I'm going to be targeting tonight.
All right, Garion, I know that must sting a little bit for you.
No, I have to watch Yusei Kikuchi pitch, so I really understand it. I'm going to go back to that Padres-Reds game, and I'm going to go with Manny Machado. This is a fun with small sample sizes. I only get to do this in April kind of stat, but Manny Machado has 12 plate appearances against left-handed pitchers so far this season. He has a 1.200 slugging percentage. That's not his OPS. That's his slugging percentage. He's hitting 600 within the split. And yeah, that's ridiculous. But Manny Machado also has a 128 WRC plus against left-handed pitching for his career. So this isn't some sort of absolute outlier. He's crushed lefties the entirety of his baseball playing life. San Martin is not a left-handed pitcher I am particularly afraid of. He's got a below-average fastball. He's contact-oriented. I think Machado is pretty vastly underpriced tonight at just $4,600. He should be well over $5K in this matchup.
Yeah, 3 games with at least 3 hits in his past 5. Steve, take us to the outfield, please.
Yeah, Christian Yelich at $4,800 tonight, going up against JT Brubaker. Maybe we finally saw a little bit of signs of life from Christian Yelich in his last game. Had a home run, knocked in 27 DraftKings fantasy points. Our guy Jared Carrabis said this is got to be someone who's going to really come back and rejuvenate his career this year. What better spot to do that against than JT Brubaker, who cannot get a lefty out to save his career? 5.34 FIP against them last year, 2.1 home run per 9 inning, and he's striking out less than a batter an inning against lefties last year. Getting Yelich at a little bit more expensive than I'd like at $4,800, but this is a perfect matchup for him. Obviously, betting from the left side, Brubaker, like I mentioned, has a lot of struggles against lefties. That has really been what has held his career back, because he does pretty well against righties, not so much in this matchup here. So I think Yelich going up against Brubaker is a matchup I want to take advantage of, especially if he's going to start hitting like we saw he did last night.
Gary, are you buying this? You want to pivot?
So it's tough. In a yet to be published article on the DK playbook, I've got Christian Yelich is probably my favorite dollar for dollar play on this slate. But I do not concede. I do not tie. I always pivot. So I'm just going to cheat and say that Nick Castellanos is your best outfield play tonight. You got to pay really through the teeth for this guy. He's $5,900 at Coors Field, but he's gotten off to a fantastic start to his Phillies career. He's got a 154 WRC plus through his first 46 plate appearances. He's got a 417 expected WOBA. He's really just been tearing the cover off the ball, has been fantastic against left-handed pitching for the entirety of his career, and OPS hovering around 900. And Kyle Freeland, this dude must be looking at the schedule going, when does the road trip come? He's had 3 starts this season. All 3 will have been at Coors Field. Get this guy out of Colorado because he has not been good when he's had to pitch there since the beginning of last season. I think Nick Castellanos has a huge night tonight.
And then as we make our way to the value department, Steve, you're going with the dude the Braves chose over Freddie Freeman.
Something is wrong. The algorithm is messed up. Something happened. And I don't care if DraftKings writes me the check. You screwed this up, and we are all going to take advantage of this. Matt Olson is $3,400 tonight. I had to go back and check 3 different times to make sure I was reading this correctly. And then I thought to myself, is Olson not hitting well and I just didn't realize? No, that's not the case either. You look at his last 5 games, 10 hits over those 5 games, 3 of them for extra bases. Is the matchup good tonight against Walker Buehler? No. But am I going to take a $3,400 Matt Olson every time he's almost the bare minimum? You're absolutely right. I'm going to. So I don't know why this happened when he was just $4,800 yesterday or the day before. Yeah, yesterday. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to take advantage. $3,400 for Matt Olson is something you are very rarely going to see. I feel like this is going to be adjusted again tomorrow, especially since I'm calling the company out on a public forum and they're all watching and going, what did we do? We made a mistake. Well, that mistake is going to be taken advantage of tonight. We're taking Olson 3,400 against Walker Buehler.
Well, if the company comes at you, I can introduce you to some of my friends in HR. We're very, very close. Gary, and how about you, dude? What do you like in the value department? Because Steve's right. This seems like awfully low for Matt Olson.
I mean, it's not just Olson either. Like Ozzie Albies is 3.6. Yeah. Like I didn't realize Walker Buehler was like 1960s Satchel Paige or something. Like this is insane because that's the only thing I can think about as to why they're priced this way. I'm going to go a little bit lower at first base. I mean, if you get past Olson, you might be making a mistake, honestly. But Rowdy Tellez at $2,900. This really just goes back to a lot of the points that Steve was making about Christian Yelich, except it's a player who's got plus power, who is less than $3,000, probably going to be hitting 5th tonight against Brubaker. If you go back across Brubaker's last 12 starts, he is allowing opposing left-handed hitters to hit .311 with a .664 slugging percentage and a .434 WOBA. He cannot get lefties out. So I think Rowdy Tellez is just kind of being disrespected with this price point, or at least they are not acknowledging how bad JT Brubaker is with some of the pricing for the Brewers tonight.
All right. And before you two take off, Steve, this is where you took your lone loss last week and put up your bukes when you shared your favorite bet. So maybe this one will hit. What do you got?
Yeah. So I love taking these team totals to the first 5 innings because you're mainly focusing on going against that other team's starting pitcher. So if you take the Red Sox team total through the first 5 innings, I know that's a mouthful, so bear with me. Okay. I'll just listen. Through the first 5 innings, over 2.5 runs at -110. So you're focusing on the matchup against Kikuchi. If I think the Red Sox are going to get off to a quick start against him, then I would think that they go over 2.5 runs. The first time through the order last year, Kikuchi was at his worst. It's like he needs extra time to get ready or something. And by that time, he stinks already, and he's already out of the game. But through the first time through the order, he had a 5.48 FIP, a 1.6 home run per 9 inning, and he was striking out less than a batter an inning, but averaging over 5 walks per 9 inning in that first time through the order. So to jump on him early is key. To go over 2.5 runs, it seems extremely viable, especially in the top of that Red Sox order. There's a lot of guys who hit lefties well. So over 2.5 runs for the Red Sox through the first 5 innings. Write it down with a crayon. It's a lot to figure out, but that's the bet for tonight.
All right, Gary, and can you make it 2 straight weeks with your lone victory coming to put up your bukes in the best bet?
I mean, I tied too. Let's mention the tie that was also.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. But again, your only win coming with favorite bet.
Yeah, I know that's a fair way to put it. I think that's all truthful. Look, so I've talked about how much I like Corbin Burns. We've both talked about how much we like the Brewers offense. We've talked about how much we dislike JT Brubaker. I'm just going to take Brewers run line minus 125. If you want something a little bit more spicy than that, I think Christian Yelich to hit a home run tonight is plus 650. It's a pretty big number considering that so far this season, Yelich has put, when he's made contact, his batted ball events, 77.3% of those batted ball events have been hit hard. They've been classified at over 95 miles per hour. That leads the league by a considerable margin. This guy has been on the cusp of breaking out all season, hit the grand slam last night, and I think that's just going to open the floodgates. So I think plus 650 for Yelich to hit a home run, if you want to sprinkle on that, is a nice bet too.
Okay, yeah, and that was C's favorite outfielder. Let's not forget that. Really good stuff. Oh, I know you remember. I know you do. Thank you so much, you two, for making time for us today on this award-winning program, The Sweat. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk some sticky puck when we come back. Right after Reed T. Fowler helps you out with what the draft needs are for the AFC West, his favorite division in all of football.
Hey guys, Reed Fowler with DraftKings, bringing you the draft needs for each team in the AFC West, starting with the Las Vegas Raiders. 2 key acquisitions in Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams shore up some areas of concern for the Raiders coming into the season, but there's 3 more that they need to address in this year's draft. Offensive guard and center. Both positions need to be a point of emphasis to protect the newly extended Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. The other is interior defensive lineman, which has been a position that the Raiders have struggled with for quite some time. You need to get pressure up the middle. Speaking of pressure, let's take a look at the Los Angeles Chargers next, at them addressing the edge rusher position in this year's NFL draft. In back-to-back years, they've lost key players in Melvin Ingram and now Uchenna Nwosu. Take a look at them to address that, or opposite of Rashawn Slater on the offensive tackle to really protect Justin Herbert. The Kansas City Chiefs will look very different this year with Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu being lost in free agency, but those aren't the positions that they should be addressing in this year's NFL draft. It's outside linebacker and defensive end. Look at the quarterbacks and the offenses in this division. You got Russell Wilson with the Broncos. The Raiders just acquired Devontae Adams and extended Derek Carr. And you got Justin Herbert with the Chargers. So Kansas City should be addressing outside linebacker and defensive end in this year's draft. And last but not least, the Denver Broncos are up next. And trading for Russell Wilson is going to fix that quarterback need that they've been trying to address for so long. So they're not going to need any help there in this year's NFL draft. They're going to need help at the linebacker position. It was a carousel last year at that position, whether it was guys not living up to their draft capital or just injuries. The Denver Broncos need to address the linebacker position.
All right, so today marks the second to last week in the NHL regular season. Most teams have about like 6 or 7 games left. All the Eastern Conference playoff teams, like those are all set, ready to rock. Half the spots still up for grabs in the West. And we got ourselves a heck of a race here for the NHL league leader in points with a handful of games to go. As I mentioned, Johnny Gaudreau within 3 points of Connor McDavid after scoring a couple times again last night. So McDavid's teammate, Leon Draisaitl, they're in the mix, as is Austin Matthews. And then Florida's assist machine, Jonathan Huberdeau, only 2 points behind McDavid with 7 games to play. Huberdeau just dishing out apple after apple, like Johnny Appleseed out there. Paul Bruno, NHL.com's fantasy editor, Anna Dua. Good to see you two here. Before we preview tonight's slate, Anna, I'll start with you. Like the Art Ross race, it's coming down to the wire here. So who do you think will finish atop like this incredible award here at the end of the year?
It's tight right now. At this point, anyone could run away with it. I would not be surprised. However, you mentioned Jonathan Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau is my pick. The Panthers have a 50-50 schedule for the rest of the regular season. However, they're playing 7 games, and Huberdeau has played spectacularly well against 3 out of those 7 teams. He's had 6 points against the Maple Leafs this season, 6 points against the Tampa Bay Lightning this season, 8 points against the Montreal Canadiens this season. So I just don't think there's any stopping Huberdeau this season. I think he's going to run away with it.
Okay. Do you agree with that, Paul? Or you want to go in another direction?
I'm going to go in another direction. No offense, Anna, but I think the defending champ is still the guy to watch. Connor McDavid will win this one. He's got a couple of soft touches on the schedule, and some of these games will lean more to Edmonton than they will to Florida. So he'll play more. I think they might back off on Huberdeau's ice time in the last few games because Florida really hasn't got much to play for at this stage. I think Calgary, the same thing applies to them. So you'll see them rested maybe a couple of games down the stretch. Edmonton still needs to clinch that top 3 finish. The Leafs are without Matthews tonight, he said. So I think he's been on the outside looking into that race for a while. Hopefully he hangs on to the goal scoring total, though. If you want to know, though, who's playing when, check out RotoWire's NHL depth charts for quality daily updates. I know AJ's not well, but I'm sure he's on the job there too today.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned, so we had 3 out of the 5 guys we just saw are in action tonight. Austin Matthews not going to play against the Flyers. That's an undisclosed injury, but Huberdeau is going to go against the Islanders, Gaudreau against the Preds. And which of these guys is worth paying up for in DFS? What do you think?
Honestly, Gaudreau has been playing amazing as of late, but he was pointless in the one game he's played against Nashville this season, so I just can't go with him. I'm back with Huberdeau. I think Huberdeau is always a safe bet. Would have been great if Austin Matthews played. He's played well against the Flyers this season. Unfortunately, he's out. So with that in consideration, Huberdeau is still my pick.
All right, Paul, talk to me, Goose.
Well, you know what? Even though Matthews isn't playing, Marner is still a great play. He's the NHL's leading scorer, and Matthews has missed some of those games. So I'll go with him tonight, saving the price on Matthews. Obviously, he's not playing, but you get Marner is up there at $8,800, and I think he'll be worth it against a very poor Philadelphia club. Calgary has that tough matchup on the road, so I'm not really going to touch any of their top line players against Nashville. Huberdeau looks like the best bet among the top scorers. I'll agree with Anna here with his trip to Long Island to face a team that was mathematically eliminated from the postseason run on Sunday. They're going to be a bit upset about that and off their game, I think. This is a guy who's got 18 points and 38 shots on goal, not just passing it. He's getting a lot of shots on goal, so he's definitely the play among the big boys tonight.
Well, Paul, speaking of big boys, you were on top of that Calgary line last night. Gaudreau and Tkachuk combining for 4 points against Chicago. Hook us up with another line you have your eye on this evening.
I'm going to give you 2 to think about, gang. I like the Minnesota top line against Montreal. It doesn't matter if Carey Price is going to play or not. This line has been red hot of late. Kaprizov, Hartman, and Zuccarello, they're priced $7,700, $6,000, and $5,300 respectively. They've poured a total of about 80 shots on goal in the last 10 games as a group, and they've scored 13 goals and come up with 27 points. So I think that's a trio you got to keep an eye on. And then Tampa hosts a visiting team from Detroit. They got some bad news just the other day with their captain, Dylan Larkin, slated to go for core abdominal surgery. That sounds awfully painful, by the way. And that should be a great matchup for Tampa's top line. They'll come in cheaper than the Minnesota trio when you consider Kucherov at $7,600, Point at $6,700, and Nick Paul at $2,900. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking it's me that's going on that line because they're still only pricing him at $2,900. And I think that's a trio to lock in against the Red Wings tonight.
All right. Well, the Canadiens tweeting out just moments ago, Carey Price will start against Minnesota tonight. So that is confirmed. Anna, what are you looking at for a line tonight?
I'm going to kind of follow Paul, but I'm going in slightly different direction. What about Minnesota's second line? That has to be one of the most exciting lines in hockey right now with Kevin Fiala, Frederick Gaudreau, Matthew Boldy. Fiala coming off of that 4-point night against the San Jose Sharks on Sunday. That entire line had a great game against the Sharks on Sunday. Gaudreau had 3 points. He's on a 4-game point streak. Boldy has points in his past 7 consecutive games. I would go with Minnesota's second line.
All right. Help me out with a little bit of value. Where do you think we could save some money on tonight's slate, Anna?
I'm going to go back to Florida, and I'm going with Brandon Montour. He's valued at $3,200 right now. He has 6 assists in his past 5 games. He had 2 assists, 6 shots on net over the course of the 2 games he's played against the Isles this season. I think he's a great value, or you could go with his partner, Gustav Forsling. Forsling has been absolutely awesome as of late. He has 5 points, 4 goals, 1 assist, 14 shots on net in his past 4 games. I would go with either of them, or if you want to spend a little bit more, the best player who really matches his value tonight has to be Robert Thomas out of St. Louis. Playing against Boston, he's on a 13-game point streak, 25 points in that mix. He's more expensive at $5,900, but he has to be the best bang for your buck.
All right, Paul, someone with the lower salary, you think who could deliver some points for the people?
Well, aside from Nick Paul, I'm going to look at Michael Bunting, $4,800. He's become a point per game player over his last 30 games with the Leafs, and playing with the top line, certainly a part of that deal. But even when he was moved off it in the last game to balance the roster, he still picked up a couple of points. So I think he's on in my sight line tonight against the bad Philadelphia club. I also think a motivated Andrew Kopp for the Rangers, $4,600 facing his former Winnipeg mates who've been leaking goals of late. And this guy's been producing with 8 points in his last 10 games played. And then finally, I look at Florida, but their top line, the wingers, are somehow priced very modestly tonight on either wing for Alex Barkov, and they get a great matchup. So Carter Verhaeghe at $3,200 and Anthony Duclair at $4,500 will match up very favorably and fit into my roster this evening.
Well, let's give the boys of the blue line a little bit of love here, Paul. So 10 games on this slate. Roman Josi, once again, the highest priced blue liner, $8,600. Hasn't really been worth that price, though, because he's got 1 point over his last 6 games. Is he a certain fade for you? And then tell me what direction you do want to go in on defense.
Yeah, he's definitely a fade. I like my scorers to be producing, and he's got the tough matchup against Calgary, so no thank you. In terms of top scoring D guys, there's a couple of guys that I will focus on, but then there's a real bargain down below, so I'll save that for last. Victor Hedman has the best matchup at home against Detroit for $7,300. He's produced all season long almost a point per game pace, and I think they're going to roll the Wings tonight. Morgan Rielly of the Leafs, one of the top scoring D-men of late with 11 points and in his last 10 games, 29 shots on goal, running the top power play in the league for $6,500 against a bad Philly club is tempting. But I have to go with Gustav Forsling for only $4,100, despite scoring 7 goals among his 10 points and 38 shots on goal, leading most defensemen in the last 10 games. And he has that favorable matchup against the Islanders. So I think he's the guy that's got to be a lock for my lineup.
I need the Dua defenseman of the night, please.
I said Forsling. I'm happy that Paul agrees with me. I would not go with Josi, as Paul said. He has been getting a lot of shots on net, but he just hasn't been producing, hasn't played well against the Flames this season. The Flames are on a hot streak, so definitely would avoid him. I would go Montour, Forsling, or even Jared Spurgeon out of Minnesota. I think that's always a safe bet. And the last time that Spurgeon played the Montreal Canadiens, he had 1 goal, he had 1 assist, so he was good against them in the game he had against them this season. I think anyone on Minnesota is a safe bet against the Canadiens in this matchup. So either the 2 guys out of Florida or Jared Spurgeon.
All right, cool. Paul, let's get you out of here with this. Which game are you targeting? Which one do you expect to be high scoring? Come on, you just teased something for us.
There's a few of them out there. I expect Columbus and San Jose, nobody's going to watch that game, but I think there's going to be lots of offense because their defenses suck and their offenses have been rolling of late. So take the over 6 prop there. The Jets and Rangers game features a number of top skaters against poor defensive structures of late, both clubs leaking goals, and I'll take the over 6 there. And then finally, Florida at the Islanders. Look, the Panthers should reach that almost by themselves. So the line of 6.5 is going to drop. Take the over there.
All right, do it up for us, Dua.
I'm going Boston, St. Louis. The Blues have 34 goals in their last 6 games. And once the Bruins get going, they get going. They've had multiple games this season where they've had over 5 goals. They scored 8 goals against New Jersey towards the end of March. So I feel like both of these teams are kind of revving it up, and I could see a high-scoring game out of this matchup.
All right. All right. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see everyone back here tomorrow, later this week, whenever you're scheduled to rejoin the show. We got 1 break to go. We got 1 block to go. We're talking some PGA Tour with our gorgeous golf gurus right after this. Here we go. I love this. I love talking golf with the gorgeous golf guru. Guys, Reed T. Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, it kind of feels like a Wednesday edition of the slate here. Like the boys are together. We're talking about dudes who can roll a good meatball. I was FaceTiming with Reed yesterday. I said, Reed, this week, the Zurich Classic, Zurich or Zurich?
I like Zurich. I like Zurich a lot more. It seems more down to earth.
Well,
I'm
seems
a professional
more
here. This is basically my last name. It's Zurich. Just
okay.
Like Ulrich. It's not Zurich.
No. Hold on.
Don't tell him what to do. And 3,
it's like
2, 1.
It's like the southern like twang, you know. So
no,
it's down
Zurich.
Louisiana.
It is Zurich, but I love you, so you can say whatever you want, man.
All right, guys, it's the Zurich Classic of New Orleans.
You're spoiling him. You're raising a spoiled child right now. Anyways, okay.
Well, Reed, seriously, when we were FaceTiming yesterday, I said, dude, this event is like unique. It's these 2-man teams. So like, what do people need to know when they're building out DFS lineups for this week? Because the scoring is a little different, right?
Yeah, so it's on rounds 1 and 3, and Jeff, if I screw this up, please correct me. It's rounds 1 and 3 are going to be 4-ball or best ball as you take the best score, and rounds 2 and 4 are going to be alternate shot. Where we see the low scores is in rounds 1 and 3 when it's 4-ball. These guys just absolutely go after these pins, right? That's what you usually see in your member guest if you're playing in tournaments with your friends or charity tournaments. You usually see that. You usually see a scramble where you go up to the ball and you all hit it from there, but essentially what this is for these guys is exactly that. In terms of the format for the golf. Now for DFS standpoint, you can only roster one player on each team, right? So if you roster Billy Horschel, for instance, you can't roster Sam Burns, but both players will get the same score. So if Billy makes a birdie and he's the one that gets the birdie for the team, Sam Burns, even though he made quadruple bogey, potentially, he gets those same points. So you can't roster the same player on each team. But there is some game theory in that in terms of how the guys are priced. But that's basically the rundown. And the points are the same, right? How every DFS contest is.
All right. So then, Ulrich, are you looking for teams who maybe have strong past results here, know the course well? Like what numbers are you looking at when you're building out a lineup?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have strokes gained data, and Reed did nail it, like he said. I mean, it's best ball on the first 2 days, and then it's alternate shot on the second and fourth day. So the tougher scoring generally with the alternate shot. But in terms of what you're looking for in golfers, we don't have strokes gained data. So I think course history actually factors in quite a bit more this week. And you look at the results, and it does, suggest that course history should be something we should be looking at more. Billy Horschel, multiple top 10s at the team event. He's won both the team event and the singles event. Bubba Watson, multiple top 10s in the team event. He's also a former winner here. The guys who've had success in the team event have typically been players who've played this venue a lot. And it's not just that it's like a Pete Dye course, that you're familiar with the course. You're familiar with the surroundings too. This is kind of more of a party atmosphere event. It's always been like that. It's a little bit hotter down here. So I give extra weight to course history this week because we don't have the strokes gained data. So that sucks just in terms of course history. But also, I think when you're playing with a teammate who's got the experience, it's really going to help your team potentially have success.
All right. So with that said, who do you want to go at with the big chunky salaries, Jeff? Like someone in that 10K range?
Yeah, I think the safest play this week is Sam Burns and Billy Horschel. I mean, this is a really, really good combo. I mean, I know Billy Horschel's your guy, but this has been typically where he's excelled. I mean, he's a 2-time winner here. He's done it with like different teammates too, right? Like he just missed out on the playoff last year with Sam Burns. He had won previously with Scott Piercy. Sam Burns is a much better player than Scott Piercy. Sorry, Scott Piercy, but it's true. So Burns is a really, really good young player. I love him for this format too, because Sam Burns can absolutely come in and just hit every 8-footer for the entire week and just win Billy Horschel another title if he wants. And you just look at the top teams too. Hovland Morikawa, Cantlay Schauffele. I don't mind Cantlay Schauffele as well. They're projecting out as like the top play for me, but typically these super teams have just been disappointments at this event. And I'd rather go with a team with better chemistry like Burns and Horschel, who again, were well in the mix last year.
And that's former LSU Tiger, Sam Burns.
Oh,
Hey.
Billy Horschel knows how to pick teammates at this event.
Yeah. You know what? SEC friends, because Horschel being a Florida Gator. Reed, it sounds like Jeff has the perfect pick. What do you like in this?
Yeah, I like it too. I'm not going to spend too much time on this team, but look, you want to go if course history is a thing, right? Then Mark Leishman and Cameron Smith should also be in consideration. But like I'm with Jeff. I really like this team in Burns and Horschel. And Horschel has won other team events as well, like the QBE shootout, which is only like 10 teams. He's also won, or he's done well in that event. So you got to go with Billy Horschel. And like, he's like the perfect teammate. He's always positive, always upbeat. He's even when he's in competition.
He'll yell at the crowds for you too. So if someone says something you don't have to worry about, because Billy Ho's on it. He's going to yell at the fans.
And Sam Burns can drive it 320 yards, what Billy Horschel can't do. And Billy Horschel can, take 45 minutes to hit a shot. And Sam Burns will take 3 to make the putt. So it's great. All
right, then take me to the 9K range, Reed. What's great there?
Yeah, I think Sergio Garcia and Tommy Fleetwood is a nice little, I don't want to necessarily say pivot because there's only 40 teams, right? Or excuse me, 80, what is it? 80, I don't even know what it is. 80 teams.
80 teams, 160 guys.
Cut.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's one team. Look, a lot of people are going Scotty Scheffler and Ryan Palmer, right? That's going to be the chalky play. Everybody loves the Chilean team and Joaquin Niemann and Mito Pereira because they were paired last week together and they're just best buds. Taylor Gooch, Max Homer getting some love. And we're kind of forgetting about that Fleetwood Garcia team. And Fleetwood's been playing a lot better. And so Sergio is always a guy that you can depend on. And look at the experience both these guys have in team events like the Ryder Cup. So give me Garcia and Fleetwood.
What do you want in the 9K range, Ulrich?
So done with these European golfers. So Fleetwood, Fitzgerald, all these guys, all they do is let me down. Shane Lowry lets us down. I'm done. We're going to the deep south pairing. Bubba Watson, Harold Varner III. Give me some American steel this week. We got the course experience with Bubba. Dude, Bubba almost won this event with JB Holmes. JB Holmes. Could you imagine a worse teammate than JB Holmes sitting out there like 20 minutes per shot? Bubba's a great teammate at this event too. He's got great course history. He's won this event, multiple top 10s with different partners. HV3 is playing the best golf of his life. I love this pairing, man. I think they're going to win. That's my favorite bet on the board, under plus 3,000. So give me HV3 and Bubba Watson. I think these two come through. HV3 looking for his first win. He's going to be pumped this week. Bubba's a great teammate, man.
Yeah, he's great, but he hasn't made a cut in 4 events and 4 times here. This is the first time these two are paired together.
I mean, dude, he could only manage a T8 with Scotty Scheffler last time around. Oh, God,
that was 2021 Scotty Scheffler though. That was like
that's
true. Like playing with you, like
whoa. Okay, pal. All right, now we're going to bullying. I see. 8K range, Jeff. We have 2 minutes left. We have 2 minutes left in the show. Go ahead. 8K range, Jeff.
Oh, me. Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, the 8K range is there's nothing I like as much. I almost just want to skip this whole range and go down to the 7K range, but
then do it. We're tight on time if you want. Go ahead.
Well, okay, let's go down to the 7K range and let's go with the pairing of Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown. I mean, again, I think that you just need to get on this. I know Scott Brown hasn't done anything of late, but these are the teams that gel. You need a pairing that gels. We know these two guys have played together a ton. I expect that 7,600, you're going to be pretty happy with the results at the end of the week if you roster these two.
Reed, you can talk about whoever you want.
Yeah, I'm going rapid fire a la Jeff Ulrich. 8K range. Give me Seamus Power and Graham McDowell. I think that's another super team. Seamus,
that's his guy.
Seamus rules. Look, I thought Jeff was going to talk about his boy Joel Dahmen. Talk about disappointment last week. Joel Dahmen double bogey on 18 and get outside the top 10. You clown. But that's a decent team. And this is going to be my favorite.
I love that team. Steven Yager can light it up. Man.
Yeah. And look, Joel Dahmen, he's playing really good golf and he could probably come back in this event and not care about the last. That's kind of sort of his disposition. My favorite in the below 7K, Brandon Wu and Patrick Rogers, one of 2 Stanford Cardinal team. Let's go, Jeff. Let's go. Look, Brandon Wu quietly in March has had a pretty decent March, right? Top 3, I believe, I think it was the Puerto Rico Open. And then a couple of top 33s. And he's been hitting it well with his irons. And Patrick Rogers, we know he can putt. So if those two things gel, and Patrick Rogers had a decent fall series, if those two things can gel, You're getting them at $6,900 and like plus 25,000 on DK Sports.
Sucking me into Patrick Rogers.
There we
man.
go.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, you two. Relax. All right, go take a cold shower. We got to go because we have like 5 seconds left in the show. Us three will talk a lot more golf tomorrow here on the Sweat, and also 5 o'clock edition of the Slate tomorrow. There's one tonight as well. They'll talk a lot more basketball, which is not as fun as golf. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern.
Funner than baseball, but not as fun as golf.